Okay, and we are live. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending to where you are. Here we are in another installment of our Davinci Resolve live training. So it's basically a series we're doing where we cover things that are, kind of questions we receive during our remote classrooms. And something I kind of just really want to share with a wider colorist community, simply because I think that some of these questions are really useful to everyone, working as a professional colorist. We try to go a little bit deeper here than just like a quick tutorials, on YouTube you find normally. We really try to dive a little bit deeper and understand the application and what's happening. So today, I don't know why, but kind of, I received like a 5 or 6 emails and requests on Facebook, like, to answer questions about parallel nodes. And I think on my last feature film class, I did it already, but I kind of thought like, well, actually, let's really explain it, because there seemed to be a lot of confusion, what to do with parallel nodes, how to use them, should I use them like this, like that, and there seems to be also quite a conflicting information out there about it. Now, I just really wanted to let you know that there isn't a really a right or wrong way of how to do, how to work with color grading in general. I mean, you should always work, the way, you get the best results. But I think that if you understand the mathematics, the technology to what is really happening inside the application and why particular processor was created, and it's going to be much easier for you to understand how to use it in the best possible way. But I leave it totally to you how you want to use it. I never want to teach, hey, press this and the rule is this. I'm super open, for you guys to break the rules and do things however you think it's the right way to do. But what I can definitely show you is, how parallel node was created, and what is really happening in terms of the mathematics, and really wanted to also show you how big Hollywood colorists use parallel nodes. And so I think that could give you all like a good indicators to what you might be able to do. So hello, I'm just gonna kind of check a little bit who's with us tonight. Oh, Juan is here, and Julian, and Isabel. Hello, Isabel from Paris. Hi, it's so good to see you. Very nice. Hey, Ivo is here. Very good. Hi, Ivo. Oh my God. Okay, I love it. I love it when we kind of, in this kind of impromptu kind of way, we get everybody here. And Roberto, my God, my favorite tester. And Jay-Z is here. Oh my God, Mr. Jay-Z. Very nice. Jay-Z, we need to catch up again. There's lots to talk. So let me start. So really wanted to show you a little bit how everything is, how they work to begin with. So um, I wanted to just explain to you the difference first, to understand how, serial nodes work, so that we can understand the difference between the serial node and the parallel node. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go quickly switch to my DaVinci Resolve. So what I got here is actually oops, let me just show you this. Fantastic. So, and the desktop is here. Okay, great. So what I got here is 2 serial nodes. And what I have loaded here on my timeline is just a gray clip. And the value of this gray clip is 512. And the reason why I'm using that is because it's like a 50% gray. So it's easiest way for us to see really mathematically what's happening behind it. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go on my first node. I'm going to go and apply a gain of 2. And the reason I'm using gain is because gain is easiest to understand because it's using mathematical operation of multiplying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply only red channel in this processing tree by factor of 2. So I'm going to go and lift my red to factor of 2. Okay, so basically what it means is like I'm multiplying my 512 clip by 2. Okay, now the result actually that we should be getting, because 512 times 2 should be 1024, is not correct. And the reason why it's not correct is because there is a feature in DaVinci Resolve called luminance mix, where DaVinci is constantly trying to preserve the luminance. The easiest way how to see how this feature works, I'm just going to go and switch my viewer to YRGB viewer. Okay, so what we got here is a Y channel and then red, green, and blue. So you see what Davinci did. In order to maintain the luminance level at 512, Davinci has adjusted my green and blue channel in order to compensate for the rise in value of the red channel and so keep the luminance on the same level. However, if I was to go and switch off this luminance mix to 0, right, then I would switch off that YRGB color science. It is very specific for DaVinci Resolve, and now I'm gonna get correct results. So I'm getting a result that when I multiply 512 by 2, I'm getting 1024, and then the other channels are staying untouched, yet my luminance has gone up. So you see, the only difference is that this kind of luminance mix is just preserving your luminance levels. And it's important for you to know that, because sometimes you do want to grade with the luminance mix on 100, and sometimes you want to switch it off because you want to maintain accuracy in terms of your RGB processing. For the rest of the kind of exercise, in order for us to get the right math without this kind of additional luminance level processing, I'm going to keep it on 0. So you see, I got the correct result. So I'm now 1024. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the next node, right? And in this node, I'm going to apply a gain of 0.5. Okay, so basically what it means is I'm going to then multiply everything again, but what's happening is the output of this node, which is now 2, is going to be multiplied by 0.5, okay? So what happens when we multiply 1024 by half is, 512. So basically we should be getting then kind of, this value, that 512. However, my luminance mix is again on 100. So when I turn it down, bang, we have everything looking exactly as it should. Everything is back to square one. And this is what we expect in a float mathematics that Davinci is using. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is show you a little bit just, how this works. So what actually, the formula is that, output is going to be calculated as input multiplied by gain 1, okay? And then the output of that node is then multiplied again by gain 2. So let's see if we take the numbers. 512 times 2 times 0.5 is 512. So everything is working as expected. So our mathematic, how the serial nodes processors work, is really matching to what is really happening inside Davinci. So this is actually very, very, very important. Okay, now let's have a look at the parallel nodes, what really parallel nodes do. They have a different way of processing, of course, and this is the formula. So the formula is in plus in times gain minus in plus in times gain 2 minus in. So before, just mathematics is a little bit complicated, but let me actually show you in the example, and then it's all gonna go, come, a little bit, together. So one second, what I'm going to do next is let me go back to my Davinci Resolve. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and open my parallel nodes. So again, I just have a 512. Again, I will be making sure that my luminance mix is on 0 on both of those nodes so that I don't get this, luminance preserving, mathematical operation. So let's go. So on the first node, I'm going to go and apply a multiply of 2. Okay, fantastic. So now I'm getting the correct result, isn't it? So 512 is now, catch this, I'm going to now take the node 3 and I'm going to now apply multiply of 0.5 here. What happens is basically I am getting the value of 768. Okay, and that is actually correct, because if we check with our mathematics now, with our formula for parallel nodes, let's have a look. Is 512 plus 512 times 2 minus 512, right? So this is again 512 output plus minus 256. We're going to get 1024 minus 256, which is 768. We have here on Davinci Resolve also 768, as you can see. So that's basically absolutely correct. So the easiest way to understand what parallel nodes really do is that they combine your processors together before they create an output. Because you see what happens here when I'm basically doing, this, when I'm basically working like this, that I go like, okay, serial node, I apply, any operation, and then I'm applying a next operation on the output of my previous node. So basically, we're in parallel nodes, right? What I do is I combine the operators together. That's kind of the easiest way how to understand if the mathematical operation seems to be a little bit confusing. So I will combine my outputs together before my operators together before I give an output there. And why do we have it? This is always now the question. Like, okay, now that we understand, the mathematics behind it, so what is really happening? Why were they created and why to use them? And the most important thing that you have to understand is that process of dodge and burn. Okay, so the process of dodge and burn is especially in feature films and absolutely, must to understand, like you also must have seen, like, how in stills photography, when we were like doing, the processing of still images, when we were like, brightening certain parts and darkening, the others, which means dodging and burning. What we do is we are combining the processors and levels together in order to create the right exposure. I'm going to show you some examples on images in a minute, but I just really wanted you to understand. The reason why parallel node was created is because that we can do dodge and burn, that we can combine our windows for brightening and darkening together before we apply them to an image. And so there is no actually limitation in parallel node whether you should use them for brightening and for darkening. Of course, you see the map, it's made for both, for brightening and for darkening, and it works absolutely perfectly accurate. But what you have to understand is that when you dodge and burn, the effect is not that you brighten something and that brighter image you bring down. The process is that we combine our dodging and burning together before we apply to an image. That is the correct visual result that we are trying to get. Now, there is actually a historical kind of, reason, why I believe that Davinci Resolve did not have a parallel node to begin with. But what's happened was this. There is this colorist called Steve Scott, and you guys must have heard it if you have been working in this industry. You must have heard his name. He has, just go and check out his IMDb and see basically what he graded. He is renowned for his immaculate process of dodge and burning that he's applying to images. And he actually has sometimes team of people who are helping him creating those shapes. And one interesting thing about Steve Scott is that he's using a luster for all of his grading. And another interesting thing for you to know is that luster has entirely all nodes or all layers combined as parallel nodes. So luster actually is working parallel only. I think they might have added, other ways of combining nodes, but luster originally was only parallel nodes. That was the only reason why. And the reason, why luster was selected, because very early on, some of the really big names in color grading who, jumped onto this digital DI have adopted luster and so asked for this particular feature, and that stayed. And so basically, what we can say is that, every movie, that Steve Scott has ever finished was using parallel nodes for, to create that beautiful dodge and burn effect that he's very much renowned to. And then I'm going to actually show you a little bit in practice how you can do this in Davinci Resolve. And then I'm going to show you also another, very interesting thing to how we can work with it. Okay. So I got here an image, it's like something from Red Camera. And what I did is I have just applied here a color space transform that goes from Dragon Color to Rec 709. And I'm using simple tone mapping and saturation mapping to come to some sort of, Rec 709 look. Okay, so this is just my starting point. I just really wanted to, create a very simple, look. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open another serial node. And then because I have a little problem with my black, I'm just going to go and bring back some of that black there so that that black line is really sitting on 0. Okay, that's the thing, just the color science, the color space transform that is doing something to it. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and say, okay, open, let's say 3. Oops, sorry, I need to open another serial first. So it's going to be Alt S, Alt P, Alt P. Okay, so now let's see how we're going to use this process of dodging and burning to help this image stand out a little bit more, because certainly we have a problem, within this shot, and which is that it's completely backlit. I can't see that. There is maybe a little bit light coming here through some doors, but you see that the key light is coming through the window, and actress is in the like a kind of silhouette, and we want to just emphasize a little bit her facial expression. In this case, maybe director really or cinematographer wanted to have her here like this, but we certainly want to help a little bit this effect. So the first thing you're going to do, so I am in a parallel node mode, so that's kind of very important. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and apply let's say a vignette. Always a vignette seems like it. Oh, can we have a vignette? It's a kind of regular thing that everybody's asking for. All right, so we're going to go and apply vignette, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and just bring down a little bit gain. I don't want my vignette to affect too much my shadows and crush them. I just want basically, to kind of darken a little bit the edges so that it kind of, feels a little bit like that. So this is really nice. The next thing I'm going to do is then I'm going to go and apply another circular window. Now I am going to do that like this so that I basically get like a little bit of a brightening here. Now you see what is really good now, because I'm in a parallel node mode, okay? My window is certainly affecting now my other windows. So you see they're combining themselves. So you see I have here a vignette, and now I have put the circular window kind of on top of it, but it's not on top really. They are getting combined. So if I was to work in serial mode, what would have happened is that then I would have now brightened these parts of already darkened image, and you would actually be able to see a circular shape, right? But because I'm in a parallel mode, I am just affecting the vignette so that the vignette is, kind of subtracting itself a little bit from, the circular window, so that the combined result is really what dodge and burning would do. So you see like now how so what's really most important for us, and the reason why we're doing it, is that these windows are not visible. We are not really like, we can't really see them very well because they're combining themselves together before they get applied to an image. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go and apply another like a grad, and this grad I want to emphasize more of that kind of key light, so I'm just going to put it like this, right? And on this light I'm going to go and maybe use a little bit offset, because this is kind of where we want to open up a little bit this side of the shot. And again, you see, all we did is we have combined our 3 windows together, and their output, has become one processor that then gets applied to an image in the parallel fashion. And that is the gold dust, really. That is how you can do beautiful dodging and burning, right? Without, having windows being slapped on top of one another. Okay, I mean, I can just quickly, just show you to what would have been happening is if I was to apply now the same results, but in basically serial fashion. So I'm just going to go and, disconnect this. And then I'm just going to quickly, connect this, one after another, right? So look, completely different result, because what I'm doing is I'm applying window on top one another, on top another. So you see, so this window, and now I have applied this one on top of it, and then this one on top of it. So the combined output is actually not the same, which is not really what we want. Is actually not even a desired output to what we would normally get when we would like be getting together in the parallel nodes. So this is one of the main reasons really, why you want to do this. There is also, I want to show you a little bit more advanced way of how to do dodging and burning. And that's something actually I'm going to be showing next week in our feature film class. I'm sorry. Okay. Why don't you change the color space in the red file method? Okay, one second. So I am basically now going to go and just show you a little bit more advanced way. The advanced way is going to be this. So look, so what I'm doing here is I am applying that same color space transform, just the one that we did. Okay, and then what we're going to do next is I am then using like a matte effectively. And then I am applying my windows to the matte. And then I'm combining that matte in parallel fashion and then blending it together with my original look. So basically what's happening is this. So you can see like, this is like a little bit more advanced way of working, with dodging and burning. So you see the difference in results. So this is like a without windows, and this is with windows. And then I also show you, this is basically the look that I had, just by applying my parallel nodes, right? And look at the difference here. So actually, it is really possible to, use dodging and burning and parallel nodes in a way to significantly improve the contrast response of your image. And I tend to use it, like this is sometimes even nicer result than just using curves, because blending in parallel mode just kind of gives me a little bit better results. So you see, this is my windows, right? And now this is with this kind of, a layered approach of how I'm basically blending all of those together. Here again, let me see, like, so this is another shot. So what we would want to do here again is we want to go and open a serial node. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open after that a couple of parallels so that I basically combine them together. So I'm going to go and apply a little soft here so that I can bring her up a little bit. That's beautiful. And then here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and apply a grad. Okay, so let's do that. Here is the grad window. And there I'm going to go and just open up a little bit this side so that we get a little bit more light coming through on here. And what I do sometimes as well is I color it a little bit. So I'm just going to increase a little bit the temperature there so that, it feels like more like a kind of sunshine coming through. And then again, unavoidable vignette. Okay, so let me show you this. So this is now the vignette. I'm going to go and invert this vignette, and then I'm just going to go and darken it a little bit like this. Perfect. All right. So there we go. This is now with our windows applied. Much nicer shot. But also I really wanted to show you to what this would look like with a little bit more advanced, approach. I just probably need to apply a little bit more warmth to this shot. So just warm it up a little bit like this. Okay, this is good. And now in full screen, let's do this. And full screen like this. So check it out. So this is kind of, dodging and burning applied, like with layers in parallel. And, this is basically, the dodging and burning. Sorry, I kind of switched my camera. Let's go back and we cancel this. Let's go back to desktop. And now this is basically my dodging and burning just with the windows. So check it out. This is just the windows in parallel mode, and this is just the layers. So you see how, it's possible again to get like just a kind of, I don't know, I like, our ability, to combine, our brightness layers in parallel mode together and then output them and make them look, just absolutely gorgeous like that. I absolutely adore the results, that you get, from this kind of layer blending mode. So here, let me do this as well. Look at this shot here. Again, I'm just going to go and show you what it looks like. Perfect, right? So you just get this kind of gorgeous contrast and gorgeous blending, that it's just very hard for an eye to even notice that we have windows there, but yet they have a huge impact on the quality, of our image. Okay, so before I continue on to the second, part, I want to maybe just take a couple of questions to see if there's anything going on in the chat, So what we got here, could you show the nodes are doing in advanced parallel option? Okay, yeah, I can do that. So in essence, it's like creating one more complex window. Yes, Kyle, this is a good analogy. You are creating one window, but think about it. You're actually applying dodging and burning, right? You're like darkening and brightening certain parts instead of slapping these windows on top of one another. This is really what's happening. So Julian has asked me like really how to, show this advanced method. So I really want to go through it, step by step so that you guys can actually see what I really am doing. So I'm just going to go and maybe switch all of these off first to begin with, so then you can see in step-by-step mode as to what's happening. Okay, so here we go. So the first thing I will do now is basically I'm applying just like color space transform that you see in my settings, but this is something you could be doing with a lot, with Color Lab, with anything you guys prefer. Basically, you could do that. Okay, so then here I applied a little primary just to kind of bring a little bit warmth into this shot. Okay, so that was the kind of the second step. Then what I did is I have then created here a color generator. And this color generator I have then set in my grayscale slider to be 50%. So you just basically go to grayscale, you click on this middle one, and that is going to give you neutral gray out. But then we need it because I show you when I kind of start doing blending modes, this is really going to be important. Okay, and then what I did is I have connected just an input node into this, because to activate the color generator you need to just connect any node in. And then I have created 3 worker nodes that I have combined into a parallel node. Okay, so this particular node has got the vignette, but what you see what I'm doing is I am effectively applying a vignette onto a gray scale image, on a gray image. So this is what I'm doing is I'm basically darkening this particular gray. So you see what I did here was I have just basically darkened. So I took a gray background and applied a vignette that has just darkened that particular gray. Okay. The next thing that I did here is I have then applied a circular window. Okay, and again I'm applying this circular window only like to the gray, and you can see where you're applying it to. You can totally adjust it. It's affecting your image, so there's absolutely no problem about it, so you can just do that. Okay, and then what I did here was an interesting concept actually. What I did is I've taken the actual image, all right, the actual Rec 709 output, and I piped it back into the parallel node. So what I got here is just basically my image again, okay? And on there, what I did is I have just applied like a little bit of contrast. So you see, I have just basically gone and taken my original image, and I have blended now I created a little bit more higher contrast version of that image. I also have saturation switched on here. We don't really need this saturation. We could be working just with black and white as well, and I think it's just kind of stay there. So you see what I did here now is I have lifted my gain and I brought a little bit my lift. So you see I'm kind of just applying creating like a black and white image with a higher contrast, and then I have combined those 3 together into parallel mode. Then I needed just a connector node. This node is not really used for anything but just, as a kind of connector node. And on that node, what I do is I desaturate completely because I only want to blend those two together. Okay, so that's the one. And then I'm using here a layer node. And what is important trick, this is the most important trick, the composite mode is soft light. Okay, you have to blend your parallel nodes that you're processing like this with the original image in a soft light mode. Okay, and then what you can do is then you can use your key output of this particular node to control how much of that effect you want, you see. And what I got now is this kind of beautiful, and especially have a look at the difference to what this kind of third blend node does. You see, so it basically really gives you this kind of gorgeous contrast, right? That is just, blended in a really nice fashion. So let me show you. This is without the contrast node. This is with the contrast node. Yeah. So basically, this is kind of the beauty of, blending. If you actually look at the process, if you ever look at the kind of, stills retouchers, how they work, how they retouch still images, it's really like that. They don't really retouch the actual image. They retouch a matte, and then they blend that matte together. So this is just a trick that I'm using a grayscale matte that allows me to do both brightening and darkening because it sits in the middle. And then with the soft light blend mode, I get this kind of beautiful effect of, bringing this in. And it's just, it's very hard to replicate this kind of in just using normal nodes. You really need to take advantage of these kind of advanced processors inside it. Let me see. Oh, you're welcome, Julian. I'm glad you like it. So it's actually a little bit kind of, I would say like some, tricks like these is just a really something that you don't really necessarily see like on tips, because this is really how pro colorists work, and they don't necessarily go out and share this with the world. So, but I'm glad to kind of show you this, and so you can get the idea to what really you can do with dodging and burning. I missed what the matte is before the parallel node. What is it again? Oh, right. So the matte is just the basically color generator. So I just basically took, this color generator or effects plugin, and I just, dropped that on. So I need a source of a neutral gray, and that neutral gray is basically what allows me then to apply windows to it, and then when I blend them, I basically get this dodge and burn effect in really, really nice. Yeah, thank you, Darren. Hey, Darren, Darren did a great little tip on kind of editing page. And Darren, I never quite understood what it page is until I haven't seen your video. And I suppose that's the difference when really professional colorists explain something, they really know how to do it. So I hope you're going to make some more of that. Okay, so let me show you actually another way of how to use parallel nodes. And this one I learned like after I arrived to Los Angeles. And I have to credit Walter Volpato for that. So Mr. Walter Volpato is a great colorist working at the moment at eFilm. And he did a meetup, and on that meetup, he basically, showed us, his node tree. And I'm going to publish that recording. I promise, guys, I'm going to publish this recording. And basically, what he's doing with parallel nodes was actually an incredibly smart idea. I never thought of using them like this, but I want to share it with you, but I 100%, this is a Walter Volpato trick. I haven't invented this. So I want to show you, maybe I'm going to use it in this particular, clip, in the next clip, and show you, how it works. Okay, so what Walter does is this, let's say he has now very complicated node tree. I don't want to go into recreating his node tree. That's not really the purpose of this particular kind of live stream. What I only want to do is I want to go and say, okay, great, I'm going to open another serial node, let's say, and I'm going to open another parallel nodes. Okay, and then what he does, and he puts these parallel nodes all the way until the end of your node tree. So, you would have here qualifiers, curves, whatever else, guys, you want to do. You would have all of that, right? But here, what you do effectively is you put it at the end, and he calls them like review nodes, right? And then this particular node, he's gonna call DP. This particular node, he's gonna call a director, okay? This particular node, he's gonna call a producer. I don't know, showrunner, right? So you get the idea of what is happening, okay? Now watch this. You get the DP, and DP says, Walter, can we please make this image a little bit more saturated? So Walter goes to the DP node and says, there you go, it's more saturated, right? And he makes it whatever, 70. I'm gonna make it a little bit more just for you guys to be able to see that I've saturated it more. Okay, this is exactly the result, everybody's happy. Now director comes in, and director says, nah, Walter, can we have it a little bit less saturated? No problems. And Walter takes the second parallel node, and then he dials this one down, okay? And then what happens, look, if he dials it down for exactly the same amount that the DP requested, he's back at the square one, as if nothing happened. He completely neutralized. And especially in saturation, by the way, this is an incredibly useful tool that you can completely non-destructively desaturate an image, from being very saturated. This is using parallel nodes. So I actually think this is the best thing, to do. So now, he didn't have anything happen on top one another. He didn't now have another correction applied to it. No, he has combined all the review nodes into same tree. Okay, using the parallel, right? And then producer says, well, I think we need to be a little bit more saturated. And then finally you saturated it a little bit more. And so you come to that kind of, agreement to how things should look and what should be happening. And I actually thought this is absolute genius. You guys don't know how many times, you end up in a situation where, somebody says, make it more like this. And that person wants to go in the opposite direction, stuff like this. But, instead of you just messing up your image with some serial nodes that don't quite, overlap each other, they don't quite, subtract from another, you are really, really able to, come to an extremely like a good result. I mean, just to, if you didn't quite get it from my first, explanation to how the math works, I'm just going to show you again, like what really happens inside, these nodes, so that you understand why you really want to do these kind of corrections in the same node. So for example, here, I'll just make a window. And then in this particular window, I'm going to turn the luminance mix down to 0. And then what I'll do is I'll, let's say, lift my channel all the way, let's say, to 2. Okay, so look, so I'm basically now creating like just a kind of, effect. Theoretically, we're assuming this is something that, we wanted to do to this particular node. But then a director comes in, right, and says, no, actually, I'm thinking we should go and make it less red, right? So what you do then again is you just go here, right? And you just make it like a less red. And you go, and as you pull it all the way down, to your value of, the minimum value, you have completely offset that. So you see, there is no window. So we have perfectly offset one correction from another. And that is very, very difficult to do, especially with windows or with saturation when you're using serial nodes, because remember, we're taking an output of a node and applying effect on top of it. So the math is not the same, okay? And that is really like the kind of the beautiful, feature of parallel. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go and open another, kind of serial node like this. And I'm going to go and say, oh, no, we want to bring some red back. No problem. I'm just bringing the red back again. Right, so you're totally like able to kind of work in a great fashion with these particular things. And I have to admit, it's been a while since I was doing this kind of introductions to Resolve kind of stuff. Mind you, this is not anymore an introduction, but I used to, when I used to teach just Resolve, I used to actually really like be very particular about teaching, the workings of the node, because I think it's very important for us to understand what's really happening mathematically, and then you understand, how best to deploy it. So yeah, it's been a while, so I have actually quite enjoyed, this little session. So that would be, all I had prepared, for you guys, for today. It was just a quick, dial in. It was a crazy busy week, the studios have woken up and they want everything done now as usually. So we had quite a lot going on, and but we are actually super happy to let you know that next week we have a feature film masterclass happening. It's all going on. So we're starting on Monday and we're going until Thursday, 2 hours a day. We're going to be doing some crazy stuff, like this kind of little bit of kind of complicated node trees for dodging and burning. And lots of other interesting things. You can go to our website and you can go and check it out and see what's happening. All classes we did so far were absolute blast. I have to say that slowly we're coming to the conclusion to what is a really good method to teach remotely. It doesn't necessarily replace classrooms, but I think working like this, with a supervised in a supervised way with a colorist is actually absolute gold. As you get also to do an assignment every day that I then correct, and I think we're like improving it all the time. With adding every course, we're adding some new things to make it better. Students are giving us great feedback, which is helping us a lot. So actually, I think that we're moving in the right direction to how compensate for the lack of ability to teach in the classroom. Let me know if you have anything else, guys, you want to, ask me questions, but it seems to be all pretty, pretty easy. Drake, thank you very much. Andrew, good to see you here. Thank you as well. Julian, amazing. Love to see you all the time. Send me some more feedbacks. Kyle, it's gonna be exactly the same like a last class. I'm adding a few bits and pieces. Kyle, if you did it, no need for you to do it again. What is important just for you guys to know is that we are going to have these micro degrees. We are still working with a couple of studios to approve the content. And you have to understand, I have made those classes, but what is very important for me is that people who are going to giving you jobs are agreeing with the content of those classes. They say, yes, this is how we want things to be done. And that's sometimes a process that takes a long time. This is not what these people do for a living. This is just a favor they're doing to us. So I'm just delaying a little bit the release of the other classes because I want, to put all the stuff in so that when you actually learn something from us, you learn the right way to how actually you want to deploy it. If you get the job to working on a Netflix, Amazon, Marvel, Hulu, Disney, or Apple, that they haven't taught you anything that is not according to how they think should be done. So these little micro degrees are coming. I'm just basically finalizing approvals for the content. And that is going to be your next step. If you did already remote classrooms, you don't need to do them again. You're going to get very specific courses where you can specialize for particular tasks. So thank you very much for dialing in. I loved it. I loved it. Actually, we had quite a good turnout for this. I'm gonna. And also, by the way, maybe let me in comments if you want something interesting, for me to cover again. I'm kind of all open for suggestions. And in the fashion of the YouTubers, just go ahead and subscribe to our channel, because I don't think that we are always going to be announcing things through Eventbrite as we did it in the past. So just hit the subscribe button so that anytime we post a new live stream like this, you're basically notified automatically and you know where to find us. Love it loads. Thank you guys for great feedback. Thank you, Isabel and Andrew. Glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, hope to see you next time we're going to go live. Probably in a week time at least, we're going to be live again. Thank you again.